IRS about to reduce its workforce by somewhere between 6,000 and 7,000, maybe 6,700 is not exactly clear, but it's going to happen tomorrow, according to a source with knowledge of the matter. Putting additional pressure on the agency's operations. Some say during this crucial tax filing period, the employees being let go are primarily probationary staff who have typically been with the agency for less than 1 or 2 years and some less. They have fewer job protections compared to the more tenured workers. The IRS currently employs 100,000 people in total, and yet nobody will ever answer the phone. It's the weirdest thing. Joining me now to discuss is the Executive Vice President at the National Taxpayers Union, my friend Brandon Arnold. Brandon, nice to see you here. Look, they're going to tell you, oh my gosh, these 6,000 people, the IRS is just going to be crippled. No, it's not. I don't believe that. Well, what we need to do to update the IRS is better computer systems. How about better customer care? I mean, I'm just going to spitball here, easier forms to fill out, easier tax brackets. I'm just throwing it out there. Do you think this is going to have much of an impact, really?
No, probably not. Let's do some basic math here. The IRS, like you said, has about 100,000 employees currently. We're talking about firing a pretty small number, 7,000 employees. But if you look back to what the IRS had just a few years ago, back in 2023, they had about 83,000 employees. So even if we fire 7,000 from the current 100,000 person workforce, we're still at 93,000. That's 10,000 more employees than they had just a couple years ago. And you mentioned most of these folks are probationary. They're also mostly from the compliance sector of the IRS. The compliance is another word for auditing and enforcement. These are the people that are not necessarily the folks answering the phones or responding to other inquiries. They're the people that are going after everyday Americans, claiming that all of us are guilty until proven innocent when it comes to filing our taxes.
So what is, as we go forward with this administration, we're talking about, and it started yesterday, big vote. They got the budget put through, 217, 215, big, beautiful budget, which means that we're on our way to a reconciliation package, which should mean the 2017 Trump tax cuts become permanent. We've got to stop, putting sunset clauses in these things. We need permanent tax relief in this country. We need lower burden to get into business. We need lower problems and obstacles for business in general. I'm talking small business. 99% of people who go to work in America go to work in a small business, not one of these big corporations. We need to give these people some help, don't we?
Oh, absolutely. And last night's vote was the first step on what's going to be a pretty arduous journey, but it's critically important because those Trump tax cuts, with the exception of the lower corporate rate, which I'm a big fan of because I do think that helps our businesses compete with China and other countries' businesses, most of these tax provisions expire at the end of 2025. So we could be looking at trillions of dollars in higher taxes next January if Congress can't get its act together and get a really good bill to the president's desk. Last night, we'd begun that process in earnest, but we really got to get the policy right here, making sure we don't raise taxes on our small business community and on families who can't even afford to pay their utility bills, their mortgages, and so forth these days.
Big challenges ahead. All right, Brandon, so if you were looking at the reconciliation bill and you were advising the president, you said, okay, here are some key things we need in to make sure that mom and dad and the small business owner and the people that are trying to make ends meet can have, as Joe Biden used to say, some breathing room, right? How about we get there? What would you suggest?
Yeah, let's lock in those lower tax rates. Those tax rates are good for everybody, regardless of whether you're making $25,000 a year or you're making 6 or 7 figures. Let's keep those lower tax rates in place. Those help families, those help businesses. And I think the child tax credit was something that's a really pro-family provision at a time when our demographics are shifting, when we need, frankly, to have more people in this country. Again, for a competitive point of view, from just a sustainability point of view, that child tax credit, I think, is really helping Americans deal with the higher costs of living that we've been facing over the past few years. So keep that child tax credit where it is. It was doubled by Trump in the Republican Congress in 2017. Let's lock that in on a permanent basis.
I agree with that. Brandon Arnold, greatly appreciate you being here as always from the Taxpayers Union, National Taxpayers Union. Thank you, sir. We'll talk again soon. Meanwhile,